Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade, welcoming Jake Robinson from NBC's newest hit, American Odyssey, premiering April 5th at 10 p.m. on NBC. It's an incredible, incredible thrill ride, so check it out. Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade. Jake Robinson, I was just congratulating you. The reviews for this show you're on, American Odyssey, look really, really great. I've seen some of the screeners, and I was telling you my tagline, Crash meets Spy Game. What do you think?
It's definitely a good tagline, man. I'm all on board with that. If we can even measure up to either of those things, then I'll be perfectly happy.
So far, the critics are saying you are, so that's a good sign. This is fascinating because the show, it really is three storylines all melding. We have a female soldier who uncovers some stuff that she shouldn't uncover, is on the hunt. You play an internet hacker, an activist, a guy who's searching for the truth, kind of an Edward Snowden type character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, I'm like the publicist today.
You're hitting all the right marks, man, for sure.
And all this stuff interweaves. So tell me about the show, what people can expect. I'm giving it to you.
Awesome. Like you said, it centers on three very different characters that all kind of meld and work around this conspiracy that's been uncovered, the fact that this U.S. corporation is funding terrorist interests in Mali. And Anna Friel, the wonderful and lovely Anna Friel, she's freaking incredible in the show. She kills it the whole way through. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff, so I can't tell anything, but it's very exciting. She uncovers this evidence, basically, that this U.S. corporation is doing this dirty business, and she keeps some of the evidence because meanwhile the corporation sends in a Blackwater-type mercenary group called Ocella to come in and confiscate everything and kind of play cleanup to all the bad stuff that they've been doing. And meanwhile, back in New York City, Harrison Walters, played by myself, is in the midst of preparing for the G8 protests, which are, it's kind of styled after the Occupy movement was kind of our fuel for that, and he's really getting ready for that, and kind of in his 20s, and in this mind of like, I'm gonna make my mark on the world, but I'm not really sure because I'm kind of selfish and in my mid-20s, and I want to do what I want to do, and then he stumbles upon this conspiracy that while the entire world thinks that her character is dead, he finds out that she's actually alive, and that sort of galvanizes him into this renewed sense of purpose, and he sees this as like, this is my moment, this is my time to shine. And then Peter Facinelli plays Peter Decker, also a class act, wonderful dude.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's just all the way throughout this whole thing is amazing. And his character actually works for the company, but he used to work for the U.S. Attorney General's office, so he's kind of like has this moral dilemma of he knows that some shady stuff is going on, and as he starts unraveling it, things start happening to his family, things start happening to all those around him and people around me, and it gets more and more intense as the season goes on.
The other thing that Harrison's dealing with is he's trying to get out of the shadow of his father, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. Talk to me about when you're building this character, there's so much that's relevant to today. How much of that is incorporated into you building this character?
Well, I think you can't help but incorporate it into it. I mean, I definitely read a lot of books, went to some protests, I talked to my own father a lot about and different people about their parents and how they relate to them, and because I have a wonderful relationship with my parents, so I was like, okay, so what's it like, and to not have that, and what does that cost you, and how does that affect you as a human being and a person, and I think for Harrison, really, the key is that he wants to go make his own mark. I think like any of us in our that when we're starting out in the world and trying to figure out how we're going to make a difference, he wants to find what he's passionate about. And some people find that earlier on, and some people find that later on. And it just so happens that in doing so, he uncovers this thing that sets him on a completely different path.
When you, as actors, get a storyline like this, obviously, again, with the relevancy of what's going on right now, do you guys look at this and say, okay, this is matching up news-wise with stuff going on? Does it make it more meaningful? Like, do you sit there like, I wonder how much of these storylines are being ripped from the news? Yeah,
I mean, that's always incredibly exciting when those things kind of match up. And a lot of it's by chance and luck. I mean, sure, the writing's influence, but this was an idea that was, I think it was like originally conceived of 8 years ago. I mean, when at the time it was called Odyssey, now we're American Odyssey, 8 years ago when it was bopping around, these things were yet to develop. So it's kind of incredible that as the show's developed in such a cohesive way with what's going on in society and what we're dealing with. And we actually had someone from the Occupy movement down on set when we were shooting it. He wasn't officially involved with the production, but he kind of was just down there experiencing, looking at it, and he got emotional because he's like, I was part of this movement that we might never have again. And you've done such an authentic job with recreating it. And he's like, all these feelings are coming back from me. And I was like, oh man, that means everything, dude. That's what we're all about. So I think that good acting, particularly in stories that we tell, should be a reflection of the society that we're in, holding up a mirror to kind of what we're going through. So if we can do that, job done.
Do you find yourself sitting back as a fan sometimes, especially with shows like this? I love shows where you have the multiple storylines that intersect, we'll call it the crash sequences. Do you find yourself sitting back when you get the scripts as a fan and wondering what's going to happen next?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the pleasures of working in television, is seeing how the writers start developing things for you and how things interact. So when you, and especially in this show, because it's 3 different characters, and we don't really have any scenes together the entire first season. So it's like, as we go along, I'm doing my stuff, and I kind of know what's happening, but then I'll see stuff that Anna Friel's doing, because she's all the way over in Morocco, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so good. I'm like, I can't believe you got to do that. You're riding on camels. What is that? I'm walking on the streets of New York.
You're like, I'm passing homeless people
you're
in
like,
Manhattan.
You're like, I've got blood on my face, and people are coming up to me and acting like it's normal. I guess this is New York City. So, that's what's great about working in television. That's what makes it an exciting medium, particularly.
The writing, every actor I speak to, it's incredible because we are in this golden age of television right now, and you see the biggest of the big actors now moving to television. And every time I ask why, this answer is always the same: writing, writing, writing.
Yeah, 100%.
Talk to me about the writing as an actor. When we're even seeing it where it used to just be cable, now it is NBC, now it is other networks, broadcast networks. When you get to be a part of this type of writing, it's got to be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I just count myself incredibly fortunate to work with such creative people that have wrought such an amazing story. Because the bottom line is, you never really know when you're an actor. You sign on for these things and you're not really sure how. You get the pilot script and you know you love it, but by the time that the director's had his cut, and then the executive producers have had their cut, and then the studio gets their hands on it, and the network, and then it comes back to you, and you're like, well, what do we have here at the end of the day? And this was a pilot that I read, and I was on the train, and I missed like 4 train stops, because I live like right before you go into Queens. So I was like 4 stops into Queens, and I put the pilot down, and I was like, oh man, that's not my stop. I must have really liked that script.
Like I'm in Jamaica Gardens right now.
Yeah, it's like, where am I? So you know it's a good story then, and then to shoot the pilot and for it to be such a collaborative experience where the Adam and Peter and Kay are always open to change or working together or constantly tweaking things so we can make it the best it possibly can be. And then when all the cuts are back and you watch it finally, and it's as good as when you read it on the subway and what your imagination thought, that's when it's the best. So that's what happened with this show, and it's just, it's amazing. I couldn't ask for a better experience.
Were you a fan of the genre before? And I'll give you, Citizen 4 just came out on HBO, and I was like literally glued. Spy Game. I'm such a big fan of this world. Were you a fan going in of this genre of this world?
Yeah, absolutely. Movies like Crash, movies like Babel, and other kind of high intensity thrillers that are not only action based but also intellectually based. The bottom line is, as long as if it's a good story, then I want to do it. And that's what this was. And it was good writing, so I wanted to do it. I like all genres, but this one was particularly exciting about. And I think when you watch it, have you seen the first episode?
I have. It's great. There was one of the critics wrote, and I forget what site it was, said it was the best drama of the mid-season, best pilot drama of the mid-season. It was a great pilot. I was sitting there and I was like, from moment one, the action is right off the bat. And I'm like, this is freaking awesome.
Well, it doesn't let you settle into any one character too quickly, because it just cuts and cuts and cuts into these different worlds, and hopefully visually everything looks so different. So it's like, I think as a viewer, especially now, because we have so much content and so many things that distract us, I think it does a really nice job of constantly making sure that you're engaged, because you do have to pay attention. It's a fast-moving pilot. If you're not hooked into what's going on, then you're not going to know what's happening in it. So it's kind of one of those things where I think it does a really nice job of hooking you in and then never letting you get bored or settled as a viewer at any one point.
You'd mentioned the production, and this is the other thing we're seeing on television right now, especially with big budget dramas like yours. we're seeing the production value is absolutely insane. I mean,
Through the roof.
it feels like you're watching a freaking James Cameron movie at this point. Do you sit there and say, oh my God, am I doing a TV show or am I doing a James Cameron movie?
I mean, a lot of the shoot did feel like a movie just because of the pure size of it and kind of the subject matter we were dealing with. NBC was so supportive, Universal was so supportive of this project from the get-go, and when you have their full support, it's kind of like the world is your oyster. You can do so much. So from that aspect, it was definitely the biggest production I've worked on, and you know, just the first day we showed up and we shot that giant protest scene, and we had like 400 plus extras. We had police on horseback, riot police. We had turned all of Bowling Green Park into a recreation of Zuccotti Park and like the Occupy movement, and so it was. I mean, it was incredible. It's like showing up, and I felt like I didn't even have to do that much because I was showing into this world that was so amazingly creative. Christy Zaya, who was our production designer, Oscar-winning production designer working on our television series. Stuart Dryberg, who shot the pilot, Oscar-nominated cinematographer. So when you have such creative people behind it,
It's an easy job.
It's like, what do I have to do? I have to show up and play pretend? Awesome. This is this is great.
And get a paycheck. I'm
Yeah.
good. Congratulations, man. The show looks absolutely awesome.
Thank
Like
you.
I said, having watched the pilot, I was like sitting there on the edge of my seat. And from
Good.
what I've read that happens moving forward, it seems like that continues. So congrats.